Welcome back to our 24th theory episode for Play Piano. Today we will be expanding on what we talked about in our last video and looking at how figured bass works for 4-note chords, or tetrachords. Since we are dealing with 4 notes in a chord, we can actually invert it one more time than the triad before returning back to the root position. Let's take a look at the C major 7 chord, C, E, G, and B. This would be written as the 1-7-5-3 chord if it were in the key of C. As we learned from the last video, some figured bass numbers are implied, and the 7-5-3 is no exception. It just gets written as a 7. We would just infer the 5 and the 3. In first inversion, we now spell E, G, B, and C. So above the bass note, E this case, we would have a 6, 5, and a 3. Instead of calling this the 6-5-3 chord, it gets shortened to the 6, 5, the 3 is implied. In second inversion, we can spell G, B, C, and E. Above our new bass note G, we have a 6, 4, 3 chord. This chord gets shortened to just 4, 3. In the last inversion, or third inversion, we spell B, C, E, and G. Here, our bass note is B, and above that, we have a 6, 4, and a 2. If you've guessed it by now, this figured bass gets the inversion 4, 2. Okay, before we try and analyze a couple of tetrachords with figured bass analysis, make sure you take the time to rewatch the opening and let that information sink in. If you're ready to keep going, I'm not going to stop you. Here's our first question. First, let's take the key signature into account. Since there are 4 sharps, we are either in E major or C sharp minor. Since this is only one chord, it's hard to tell exactly which of the two without context from the rest of the music. So let's just pretend we're in the key of E major. The chord is D sharp, F sharp, A, and B. Let's invert it until we have root position, meaning all lines or all spaces are stacked. We should now have the chord be D sharp, F sharp, and A. In episode 22, we learned about the different types of diatonic tetrachords. A tetrachord created on the 5th gives us a dominant 7th. So we have a B7 chord. Now, since D sharp is on the bottom, it is in the first inversion. That means that this chord is a 5-6-5 chord. Okay, let's do a couple more. Here we are in the key of G, and we have an E, F sharp, A, C. Inverting it to a root position stack gives us F sharp, A, C, and E, which is the 7 chord. We learned in episode 22 that the diatonic tetrachord for the 7th degree makes a half diminished or minor 7 flat 5 chord. So we have an F sharp half diminished chord with an E on the bass. This means that the chord is in the 3rd inversion, so we will label it as a 7-4-2 chord. Alright, last example. Here we are in the key of D flat major, and the chord spells D flat, F, G flat, and B flat. In a root position stack, we're looking at the 4 chord, G flat, B flat, D flat, and F. The tetrachord on the 4th scale degree gives us a major 7 chord, so this is a G flat major 7 chord. Since it already has a D flat bass, it is in the 2nd inversion. So we're going to label this a 4-4-3 chord. Now you should try a few on your own in the theory workbook. If you get stuck, take a break and rewatch the video to try again. You're going to start getting the hang of it, I promise. Okay, I will see you in the next video.